Okay, so I've wedged up 6 balls of clay. I've got 5 of them in this Ziploc bag. It's not closed all the way, but it's enough to kind of keep them moist while I throw the first one. So I've got a wooden bat here that's a little different than the ones that you guys have. It's, it's just got a smooth surface. It's a little warped. It's also got some red clay residue from some other pots that I was throwing previously. And so what I'm going to, and get some of that clay dust off, because our first task when we're throwing is to make sure that the clay is actually attached really well to the wheel. Otherwise, you know what we're trying to do. Okay, but it's not wet. Then I'm just going to place this ball of clay, it's about 650 grams, in the middle. You'll see on the internet sometimes people will just slam it. If you place it, you're more likely to get it closer to the center. And then I'm just going to push down and then turn the wheel just a little bit. You can turn it with your hands even, don't even use the motor. So I'm just pushing it down and making a cone shape so that it spreads out onto the wheel. And I just want it to be really well attached to the wheel at that point. So now I've got kind of a low mound and I'm ready to add some water. So when you're throwing, you want to keep this slippery like that, and add a little more water. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to squeeze this clay and make it move, okay? And the idea of making moves with your hands is an important idea, because that's what we make a move and then we'll hold that move and then we'll relax slowly. So the first thing that I'm doing is I'm setting the speed of the wheel, and I'm taking my foot off the pedal. So that way it's just turning by itself. And I'm throwing standing up. I mean, you can do a stool like those, the Aspire wheels designed to go on a tabletop, but you do want to be kind of above it a little bit. So I'm standing up. My wheel head is about 35 inches from the floor, which is pretty good. For any taller, I'd probably have to move the wheel down a little bit. Otherwise, I'll have to stand up on something. But anyway, in the beginning, centered, it's moving around a little bit. All right. So I'm just going to get it wet. I've got it set at kind of a moderate speed, and I'm just going to squeeze the clay, and then I'm going to hold and slowly relax. Take your hands away real slow. So you can see I changed the shape of it, and that's the goal, and to be taller and thinner. Then I'm putting a little more water on it. I'm going to do that one more time. Squeeze, and then I'm just holding and slowly relaxing. Now, one thing that you just have to kind of figure out how to get your body stabilized. And I mean, this in a way, it's kind of like doing a core workout, because you're just kind of keeping your body stable and strong. So now I'm going to, you can see it made it even taller. Now I'm going to go down. I'm going to speed up the wheel just a little bit. When you're working with the wheel, the speed of your hands is related to the speed of the wheel. So if you're going slower with the wheel, you're going slower with your hands. Anyway. So now what I'm doing is I'm using this part of my palm that's connected to my thumb. I'm putting that on the top. And then this part of the palm where your hand kind of bends like that, that's going on the side. All right, and then I'm going to use my right hand on the other side of the clay with my right thumb over the back of my left hand like that. And then I'm just going to push down with my left hand, and I'm kind of guiding it with my right hand. So, and then I'm going to push down and hold, and then slowly relax. So that's the process of moving the clay up and down. Potters call this coning. So now I'm going to squeeze it, bit faster now because you've already kind of seen it, but you want to do it at least 3 times. Shoulder right here, and that's going to help it to spread out at the base. Because a lot of times when you first start pushing down, you know, it might have a tendency to kind of mushroom over. So I'm holding, slowly relaxing. Then I'm going down again. And as it comes down, I'm pushing on the shoulder with my right hand, and then I'm holding and slowly relaxing. So that's 3 times up and down. So now I'm ready to open it. So usually, like, what it takes for a person to learn how to do this is to watch me do it once, and then I'll watch you and give you some tips as you go. So now I'm going to put my thumbs in the middle with my hands on the outside like that, and I'm going to push down with my thumbs, but I'm keeping my thumbs kind of flat. In other words, you don't want to go up like this. You're going to find yourself shrugging and going up vertical like this, perhaps. But rather than that, just keep your shoulders kind of relaxed and just push down with your thumbs and keep them at an angle. And that opens it up and creates like a cone on the inside. Now what we're going for is about 1/2 inch thickness from the bottom to the wheel. And you can check that out by using your needle tool and just push it. If I can find my needle tool. So I'm going to stop the wheel briefly and just check the bottom by pushing all the way down, and then I'll put my finger down to the bottom, and so I'm going to leave that on. So that's my base. I'm going to take my fingers inside, and it'll get a little thinner. So now, can you see my fingers actually from that angle?
Yeah.
Them to the outside like that. Slowly relax. Leave it right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and compress this. And this is actually good for it because it compacts the particles in the bottom, and it makes it less likely for it to crack later on. So you want this to be dry and compacted. So I'm going back and forth with my fingertip from the middle to the outside, back to the middle, back to the outside. We're doing this at least 3 times just to kind of compact that down. So I made it a little thinner now by doing that too. And I also established a right angle to the wall. All right, so now you might find that at this point it's a little off center. And so if you do, what you can do is take your left fingers inside and your left thumb outside, and you can take your right hand on the top and just kind of push down with the right hand and just hold your left finger and thumb at the same thickness. And what will happen is you'll push it down and compact the clay into that donut shape. So that's the donut stage. And while you're doing that, and we're going to use that, we're going to put a little water there in it. And then I'm taking my right finger with my sponge and putting it on top of my thumb. And then I'm just going to squeeze and then slowly bring that squeeze kind of up and in and slowly relax. And then that. So that's the first pull. I'm going to do 3 pulls. I'm making a groove with my finger. And I'm using my finger with my sponge behind it. And when you're pulling, actually I haven't even changed the speed of the wheel. You know, you can slow the wheel down a little bit if it feels like it's too fast. So that's 2 pulls. Now the third pull, I'm going to push outward from the inside at the bottom with my fingers. And I don't know if you can see this, but it's going to bulge out. See how it bulged out a little bit at the base? Mm-hmm. Get that clay out of the bottom. So I stopped, I put a little more water into that groove, and now I'm just using my fingertip pressure to try to get that last pull about 1/4 of an inch thick. weight at the top, and then I'm going to hold and slowly relax. Then I'm going to hold the rim and take that off. Now what's going to happen when you're first starting out is you're going to get like a wobble in this. To correct that, like right now I'm just using the sponge on the bottom to kind of flatten it out and keep it dry down in there. You know, one of the things that's interesting, if you're using these objects that you make and you're washing them in the sink, you end up developing more of an awareness of every little groove and bump that you made. I'm going to take the rib, and you may actually do this on every pull. And I'm keeping the rib clean, and I'm using it with the point down, and it's got this little depression, and you can put your thumb and finger in that. And then I'm going to go on the inside with my fingers against the rib. Now, it's helpful if you can get your thumb on the rib, but I made this a little bit taller than, so I'm going to bring this rib, actually I'm bringing my finger up against the rib really slowly, and that's going to straighten it up. Then I'm going to hold and slowly relax. So I haven't changed the speed of the wheel, but it is helpful to go, like I say, a little bit slower. So once you get to that a little bit, I'm going to slow it down a little bit. A little bit of shaping on the rim by pushing out from the inside just like that and holding. And so I've got a finger position with the left finger inside, the left thumb on top, and the right finger underneath the lip. Then I'm just going to round that out with my sponge on top. And I'm going to call that a day. That'll be done. So the next thing, what you want to do though, as you're going along, is to measure these and see how tall they are. And that way you can track your progress. So I've got this plastic ruler here that is covered with clay, so I can't read it at all. And let me just take a quick measurement and then I'll stop this. So this is a little less, I'm going to call it 5.5 inches. And it's about 4.5 inches wide. So that's about how high it is. So what I should do is in my sketchbook, write that down. I know how many grams it was. It was 650 grams. I was able to throw 5.5 inches at 4.5 wide. So as I go along, maybe I can get it to be taller and thinner. Now another thing, I'm going to first show you how to lift this. When you get ready to lift it, what I would recommend is that you have a little piece of cardboard to put it on. And what I did was I cut up one of those boxes and made these little squares of cardboard. And so that way I have something to put my pots on. So what I'm going to do now is clean off and dry off my hands. And then I'm going to lift this pot. They'll stick to the surface of the damp pot and almost like a magnet. So you don't really have to squeeze. And that's the point, because you don't want to squash your pot. Now, what I would actually recommend is that, you know, you have two bats, two plastic bases. First, just lift the base up. And I got my fingers down on the wheel like that. And it's like drawing two lines next to the pot. So you want the wire to go straight through, and 3 times just to make sure that it's loose. Because if you cut it and then you go dry your hands, sometimes it'll stick back down again. Dry. And now I'm just going to go around the sides, but not with the thumbs in the back. The thumbs, putting it on the cardboard. By the cardboard, so it can dry and we can trim it. And it'll dry in about 20 minutes probably, and I could trim it. Before I do that, I want to stop the recording.